Thank you so much for joining me here today. My name is Sylvia, and this is part 1 of a 4-part workshop on healing emotional triggers and understanding what the Law of One calls a catalyst. Now, before we go deeper into the work itself, we're gonna get clear on something foundational. Why do we get triggered? Why do certain situations hit us so deeply while others don't? You see, most of us think that our emotional reactions are caused by what is happening outside of us. But the Law of One offers a deeper truth. So in this part, we're going to break down the core mechanics behind emotional triggers. We're going to learn what trigger really is, what a wound is, what a feeling is, and how do we really heal. And understanding these basics will make everything else fall into place. So this is the foundation for everything that follows in part 2, part 3, and part 4. Thank you for your attention, thank you for your presence, and let's begin. Let's start with inner work. So what exactly is this? So inner work is the conscious practice of turning inward on purpose, with intention, to examine what is actually happening inside of us, what might be causing disharmony and holding you back. And inner work is not self-improvement. Self-improvement operates on the assumption that you are kind of a project, something to be optimized, something to be upgraded, something to kind of make better. But inner work is not about adding. It is not about refining the separate self. It is more about releasing all that is unreal, the fears, the beliefs, the self-imposed limitations that are hiding deep in our subconscious. So it simply asks, what's in the way? So it is a simple and a beautiful process of noticing what isn't truly you and letting that loosen its grip. So it is a reclamation of the true being that lives inside you, the one that's already whole, wise, beautiful, and extra fabulous. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So I decided to open this workshop with the wisdom of 2 great minds, Carl Jung and Rumi. Because even though they lived centuries apart, these 2 quotes perfectly encapsulate the core of this teaching. And that is that we are most triggered by the unintegrated aspects of the self. So what are these unintegrated aspects? Ra calls them distortions, Jung calls them shadows, psychology calls them wounds, unmet needs, ancestral traumas, blind spots, or unconscious beliefs. It's a different language, but the truth is exactly the same. We are most triggered by what we haven't yet integrated. The unconscious runs the show until we face towards it. Now, Rumi said the cure for the pain is in the pain. And for a long time, I thought that what he means is that we have to feel our pain in order to heal it. But Rumi didn't say healing from pain is in the pain. He said the cure for the pain is in the pain. And a cure removes the cause. So what is that cause? Here is where the Law of One comes in. Because it teaches that feelings are intelligent energy moving through distortions, through the shadow material that Jung described. So when you follow the pain inwards, not the story of who wronged you, but the raw sensation of pain, when you follow this inward, something shifts. The question, who did this to me, is replaced with what in me is asking to be healed. So then the pain becomes a doorway instead of a prison. If you follow it inward, without blame, without the victim story, it will lead you to its root, towards the belief, the fear, and the distortion. And that's exactly where the cure lives. So part 1 is about understanding the law of one, basics for catalyst integration. So this is what we're going to look at. Trigger, wound, feeling, healing. What does each one of them actually mean? Okay, so let's begin with the law of one. The law of one is a series of channeled conversations from 1980s between a small group called LL Research and an entity called Ra. So Ra teaches that all existence is one consciousness, hence the law of one. And that consciousness is experiencing itself through infinite forms and moving from contraction and oneness into expansion and then back again. And this is this journey that we are on. We are the manifested consciousness on the journey back home to oneness. So, if everything is consciousness and if all is one, then the boundary between the self and the world is actually thinner than it appears. Our inner world influences the reality we experience. If you transform one, you transform the other. Catalyst is one of these words that sound technical, but it actually describes something we all know very well. You can think of a catalyst as a trigger. You see the image there? Catalyst presses on a distortion so it can be seen. So it is anything that makes you feel, anything that makes you react. And we're talking here about reactive feelings, okay? Ra calls catalyst anything that assaults your senses, anything that activates emotions, threatens your sense of safety, your identity, your beliefs, your attachments, your sense of how things should be. So catalyst is a trigger that exposes something inside, okay? But very shortly, Ra calls the catalyst that which causes experience. Okay, this gets interesting now. I'm going to start with a quote. To a truly balanced entity, no situation would be emotionally charged, but it is simply a situation like any other. And that is because a catalyst is neutral. And I know it's a little confusing because if catalyst is anything that causes an experience, triggers an emotion, how can it be neutral, right? So I'll give you an example. What gives a catalyst meaning is what it touches within you. This is why people can experience the exact same situation, like criticism, rejection, or loss, and have completely different emotional reactions. So one person can feel anger, another person can feel unworthiness, and someone else might feel nothing at all. So the difference is not the catalyst, the difference is what the catalyst touches inside the person. In other words, if there is a wound, there is a reaction. So when something feels intensely charged, it means that the catalyst contacted something important within you. It can be judgment, it can be part of, your own identity, like how we view ourselves or how we want to be seen. So it is our expectations. It is our sense of safety, of our beliefs of how the world should work and how we should be treated by others, etc. So in this framework, the emotional reaction is not a failure. It's just information. Let's start with the image here. Distortions warp perception. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the image, you can kind of work it out already. So this is kind of exactly what I mean. So think of looking through a warped glass. The room outside is straight, but through the glass, everything looks bent. But the distortion isn't out there. The world isn't distorted. It is what you're looking through. That's distorted. So distortion is a wound. It is some kind of constriction inside you. It is an internal pattern, often reactive, automatic, very often subconscious, something that we're often not aware of. So where does this distortion come from? Well, there's many sources of them, but I once read a quote that might explain one reason. And the quote said, "Tame your demons or they will raise your children." So that's exactly where some of these distortions come from. They are echoes from the things that happened to us in our childhood, you know? The uncaring and cold mother, or the angry and unavailable father, or it can be something that happened to people before us. So some unresolved traumas which were passed on, fears that we absorbed from the people that cared for us, you know. Obviously there's a difference in generational ideas, so perhaps some expectations of what success and what safety in life looks like to our parents, for example. Societal conditioning, ideas about gender roles, identities, about clothing, ancestral patterns as well, you know, something that is deeply encoded in our bodies to direct survival, etc. But there's many sources of distortions. The point to remember is that these distortions can warp our perception. They really can affect how we view reality. No wound, no feeling. Okay, so most of us believe this. Trigger, feeling. We believe that the trigger caused the feeling that we're feeling, which means someone else is responsible for it. So the only way to feel better, is to control the world outside of us. You can avoid the trigger, change the person, escape the situation, avoid the trigger. But the Law of One teaches there is no feeling without a wound. Actually, let me be a little bit more precise, okay? Because we can actually generate feelings too with our thoughts. We can think loving thoughts and we can create loving feelings inside, or we can think angry thoughts and we can generate angry feelings inside. But what we're discussing here is reactive feelings that are instantaneous, they're often intense or often irrational or disproportionate to the situation. This is what we're talking about, okay? So the Law of One teaches this: catalyst, distortion, reaction. Or put it simply, trigger, wound, feeling. But what is so special about it, right? It's exactly what the title says. No feeling without a wound. So in other words, feelings point towards the wound. So when you understand that your feelings are faithfully showing your distortions, so your wounds, you start seeing them as guides that say, look here, something unhealed lives here. Okay? So in the Law of One framework, feeling is a messenger. Distortion is the cause. Feelings as guides. Okay, so let me start with what feeling actually is, because honestly, when I first learned this, it came to me as a shock, and I was way too old when that happened, so I'm not gonna even admit it here, okay? So, feeling is not emotional thinking. So typically, feeling and meaning making happens so fast for us that they merge in our head into one. So we kind of assume that they're one and the same. Like whenever we have a feeling, narration comes to explain what this feeling means. But feeling in its true form is pre-verbal. So it is before speech. So feeling is the raw emotional sensation in the body. So look at this image here. It's the heat in the chest, it's that emotional charge. It's the tightness in the throat, not in the stomach. I don't know, what other feelings do you get? But this is what a feeling is. So feeling emerges from the body. Meaning making emerges from the mind. But as you see on this image here, the head is not activated here. So all the emotional charge he's experiencing now is coming from his body, okay? So feelings illuminate our wounds. And here is why this distinction matters. A feeling itself is never false. The Law of One teaches that feelings are intelligent energy moving through distortions. And in other words, feeling is your internal guidance system that is registering that something in your inner world is being activated. So because of this, feeling is an accurate reflection of your internal state, of your subconscious state, okay? Now, and this is important to understand, the story that we attach to the feeling, the interpretation, the narrative may be completely false, because interpretations are beliefs. They're meaning making, and they're layered on top of this, emotional signal. So the guidance here is this: use discernment. Honor the feeling, listen to your feeling, but examine the belief. Examine the narration that comes with it. But remember this: you have no false feelings. Okay, true function of a feeling. Look at this image here for a moment. So as you can see here, emotions are an intelligent energy moving through a distortion. And this is actually very interesting because Kabbalah and the Law of One both have this, explain this in the same way, that feelings are generated through this energy that it moves through our energy centers. So you can see the 7 chakras. This is, and and the torus field around it, people call it the spiritual donut. It always makes me laugh. So this is how the energy moves throughout our body, and this is how distortions are activated through this intelligent energy. Okay, but let's go back to the topic. So true function of a feeling. So modern psychology sees emotions as adaptive responses that are shaped through patterns, conditioning, activations of our nervous system, etc., etc. But the Law of One offers something more radical, that feelings are not only psychological reactions, they are this intelligent feedback that reveals where consciousness itself is distorted or fragmented. So understanding this shifts everything, because where psychology might say your fear is disproportionate or irrational, the Law of One would say that the story that you attach to the fear may be distorted, but the fear itself is perfectly accurate because it is exact reading of the distortion that is hiding inside your body. Okay? So remember this: a feeling is never a mistake, it is a messenger. and it always tells you the truth about what is encountering inside your body, what lives inside your body, okay? Okay, recognizing catalyst versus distortion. So I've packed these slides with a lot of text, so you can use this for self-study if you are tired of my voice and you would rather learn in silence, okay? Then watch this again. So this lays out the difference between catalyst and distortion clearly. So catalyst is outside, it's the event, the trigger, and distortion is inside, the pattern, the reaction. So if you want to study this, you can download the PDF, and I will link the link somewhere in the description, okay? Thank you so much for watching my workshop. If you have any questions, I would love to know them. Let's hit them in the comment section below, and I would love to answer. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for your presence, and I leave you with love and light.